Hey everybody, welcome to the post Hell in the Cell edition of NoDQ&A video, right here on youtube.com/NoDQ&AV, and of course NoDQ.com, your source for all the backstage fallout from Hell in the Cell, so make sure you stay tuned to NoDQ.com for all the news. But for now, let's dive right into your questions. Hey Aaron, what did you think of the CM Punk versus Ryback finish? It's now the second time a referee has helped CM Punk win. Where do you see this going from here? I've gotten a lot of questions, obviously, about Hell in the Cell and my thoughts on the main event. I'm not surprised by the finish. WWE backed themselves into a corner. They had CM Punk with this long title reign, and they did not want to end the title reign. The original plan was for CM Punk to be champion going into the Royal Rumble against The Rock, and let's face it, that's a big money match for them. So they wanted to protect CM Punk, but at the same time, they wanted to protect Ryback. Ryback has had a lot of momentum in recent weeks, and they didn't want him to look weak after this match. So they came up with the finish that they did. It was the referee, Brad Maddox, screwing over Ryback. The low blow, the fast count, and after the match, Ryback goes on a rampage, destroys the referee, destroys CM Punk, and yeah, I mean, I figured something like this would happen. I didn't really like the idea because I think it cheapens the Hell in the Cell stipulation, and based on the feedback, a lot of people are not happy about Hell in the Cell. It's gotten very mixed reaction from people. A lot of people felt that they got ripped off, and I knew this was going to happen. I even talked about it in previous videos that if you're doing a Hell in the Cell match, fans that buy the pay-per-view are going to want to see a decisive finish. And when you do a screw job finish, you're going to weaken the stipulation. But then again, one could argue that the stipulation has been so watered down over the years, no blood in the Hell in the Cell, and they don't really take a lot of chances in the match. So, I mean, whatever. I mean, I think they did the best they could under the circumstances, and they really did back themselves into a corner. Where do I see this going from here? Well, obviously they're going to keep the storyline going with the referee, and it's kind of interesting because the referee had screwed over CM Punk several weeks ago when CM Punk's foot was on the ropes. So we'll see how all that plays into this storyline. But clearly it's something they had to come up with at the last minute. This isn't something that they planned out way in advance, because if it was something they planned out, they wouldn't have had the referee screw CM Punk several weeks ago, and then all of a sudden he's on CM Punk's side. During the pre-show, John Cena cut a promo about facing The Rock, and Cena said, "In this building we announced our first match and I'm ready to go again." What's your thoughts on this, Aaron? Once again, it's not a big surprise. There's been speculation for months now about John Cena versus The Rock, and it certainly seems like the plan going into WrestleMania is that The Rock would beat CM Punk at the Royal Rumble, win the title as he's promised, and I think the fact that The Rock has said he wants to win the WWE title, that's what's going to happen. And then at WrestleMania, John Cena beats The Rock goes back to Hollywood, and Cena gets his win back. I mean, that seems like the obvious direction that WWE is going in. It could change. But yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise that he's teasing another match with The Rock, and people say, well, it was once in a lifetime, but that was just a marketing ploy by WWE to get people to buy the pay-per-view this year for WrestleMania. And you can't really hold WWE to their word. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. WWE will say something, and then they'll go back on it. This is from BCruz16. Hey Aaron, with Sheamus' loss at Hell in a Cell, does this make you root for Sheamus any more than when he was World Heavyweight Champion, since he actually lost in a clean fashion? I have to say I was surprised by the outcome of this one. I fully suspected Sheamus to retain the title against Big Show, and I think that's what most people were expecting. But WWE has Big Show beat Sheamus, and not just beat him, but beat him clean. I do think that it was time to take the title off Sheamus. Sheamus has been champion for over 6 months now, and SmackDown really needs a dominant heel. And this puts over Big Show as a monster heel. And, it changes things up now. Now Sheamus can be the guy chasing the belt and trying to slay the giant. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I do find it interesting where does Randy Orton stand in all this? Randy Orton beat Alberto Del Rio, but I was figuring at some point Randy Orton would be turning heel and then he could feud with Sheamus over the world title, but perhaps WWE is just not ready to turn Orton. They still feel that Orton is their top babyface on SmackDown. So, I mean, yeah, it was a little bit of a curveball, and not saying it's a bad one at all. I think that it'll be good to see Big Show as world champion for a while and be that dominant heel monster champion. This is from Maddie Dawn. Do you think WWE has made a mistake with the whole AJ affair allegation, as Vicky had a relationship with Edge when she was the GM and she's the one who apparently told the board about AJ and Cena? Doesn't really make much sense. What are your thoughts? Well, when does a wrestling storyline ever make all that much sense? Yeah, obviously WWE didn't pay all that much attention to their own history, and they tend to do this a lot. We're all supposed to forget that Vicky had this relationship with Edge. So, I mean, it's kind of silly, but I think it's even more silly that this whole storyline so far is paralleling the TNA storyline with AJ Styles and Claire Lynch and all that, and that's not the kind of storyline that you want to be ripping off or trying to do something similar. Hopefully they have a better outcome, but it's just more or less the same thing that TNA was doing a few months ago. So can't say I'm a big fan of it right now, but we'll see where things go from here. Why didn't WCW bank on Sting versus Bret? Could have headlined pay-per-views in 97, 98, Starrcade, or at least Super Bowl or Great American Bash. Regular match, ladder match, 2 out of 3 falls, submission with Sharpshooter versus Deathlock. Really dropped the ball, right? Did they have chemistry? Halloween Havoc 98, letdown. That was an interesting question right there. I don't think Sting and Bret Hart reached the full potential because of the way WCW booked it. They just didn't do a very good job. I remember part of the build-up leading up to the match. Bret Hart was pretending to be friends with Sting, and then him and Hulk Hogan went out on Nitro. Bret Hart and Hogan had like a 10-15 minute match, and then Sting comes down to the ring to help Bret Hart, and then Bret Hart turns on Sting, and him and Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan embrace and reveal that they were in cahoots all along. It was just a stupid storyline. Why would these guys beat the hell out of each other for 10 minutes and then they're friends? They were just setting up Sting. It just didn't make much sense. As I mentioned in the previous question, not a whole lot in wrestling makes sense, and I just think it hurt their match, the build up to it. And Bret Hart was kind of lost in the shuffle. You know, he had all this momentum coming off the Montreal Screwjob, and then WCW just threw him into mid-card matches. So yeah, it really did hurt the Sting versus Bret match. The fact that Bret wasn't being utilized properly, and Sting was doing the whole Wolfpack thing, and I think that had run its course as well. So yeah, I mean, yeah, under the circumstances, just didn't pan out like it should have, I think. Isn't it annoying to watch WWE and hear almost everybody on the roster called a former heavyweight champion? I like Bryan and Miz, but they're two perfect examples of guys given the belt way too early. Don't get me started on Swagger and Sheamus. Thoughts? Definitely. It's always bad when you throw the world title around like a hot potato, and they've done it mostly with the world title. The WWE title is still the bread and butter of WWE championships. But yeah, I mean, Jack Swagger was a big mistake. The problem is that WWE is trying to make new stars, and they think that just putting the title on somebody will make them a star, and that's not always the case. Just because a guy has a title doesn't mean the fans are going to buy into him as a main event star. And especially when you put the title on the guy, but then you don't want to get behind him. You don't want to put the marketing machine behind him. Somebody like Jack Swagger, he became world champion, and then he was still in mid-card matches, and he was still losing matches even though he was world champion. The world champion is supposed to be the number one guy in the company. So unless you're willing to book a guy like he's number one and better than anybody else, then he really has no business holding the title. So that's definitely a problem with WWE, and they have done a better job protecting the world championships in recent months. Sheamus had a long reign, and CM Punk has had a really long reign as WWE Champion. So, I mean, they have gotten better. But yeah, definitely a couple years ago, it was going around like a hot potato, and it just really watered down the title a lot. All right, that'll wrap it up for this edition of No DQ&A video. Subscribe, youtube.com/NoDQCW. Tell a friend on Facebook or Twitter about No DQ&A video. And I will see you tomorrow for a post-Raw edition of No DQ&A video. See you then.